Hello again. Today's project is going to be garlic keepers. I saw some videos. There were some very good wood turners, better than I am. We're doing different styles of garlic keepers, and I saw that video. Took some inspiration from several of them and decided to make some garlic keepers for Christmas presents. I have a son and a daughter who are chefs, so they're going to appreciate a garlic keeper. And I'm going to make 3 of them, so one of them will probably be either mine or will go to somebody else as a Christmas present. So the first thing I did was make a prototype. And this one is made smaller because I just made it out of 4x4, which are really 3.5 by 3.5. But I wanted to get some idea of how it would work, and some ideas that I had won't work. So we're going to see how it when I start working on the real ones. This one, I tried this with a recess, and I didn't make the recess small enough, deep enough. So it came off and broke apart here. Not a big deal. But it gave me some lessons. The holes, I put them in before I started turning because I wanted to eliminate or minimize blowout on the inside. And I did minimize the blowout, but the problem is that when I was drilling the inside holes to hollow them out, the Forstner bits were catching on the holes. So that's not a good idea. So when I make the new ones, I will round over the outside, hollow them out, and then put the holes in. And instead of a recess, I'm going to make it with a tenon. So I think that will work out fine. I've got 2 blanks here made of walnut. Very heavy. They'll be a lot lighter when I take a lot of this stuff out, but I think these will look good as a garlic keeper, especially for my son who is into goth and he likes the dark stuff. And then I have one in maple, so I'll try this one. Garlic keepers have lids on them, so this one in maple will have a dark lid, and the 2 in walnut will have a light lid as contrast. So first thing is to get started marking them off to go on the lathe, and I've marked this one. You can see the center point, and I do not do well with woodworm screws. I've tried them, and I just don't like them. I don't work well with them. So I use face plates. So I'll put this face plate on, screw it on, and put it on the lathe and start rounding it over and getting it ready. Even if I'm not planning to run the lathe in reverse, I always make it a practice to tighten the set screws on faceplates and chucks. That way I don't get surprised when the implement unscrews itself from the lathe. Safety first. I started doing my rough turning as I would do with a bowl. I didn't like how it was turning out, so I stopped doing that and began making the tenon for use later. I'm using my ruler to get the size right because I don't have a set of dividers. I probably should buy a set someday. Now I'm doing the roughing out, turning this blank round. Even though this is at 200 speed, you can notice that I am not a production speed wood turner, but I do have a lot of fun with what I'm doing. And now the finish cuts on the rounding. You can see how fine the shavings are. I'm now refining the bottom of the foot. I've switched to a carbide tool to finally smooth the trunk of this garlic keeper. You'll notice I'm making a small indentation near the top. That is going to be a finger hole for when people want to hold this while they're getting the garlic out. You'll notice I don't have a dust extractor with this sanding. That's because I wear personal protective equipment so the dust particles will not get into my lungs. I also have an air filter on the whole garage. I've turned the blank over, put the tenon in the chuck, and now I'm drilling with a Forstner bit. I'm drilling a relief hole. I'm doing this so that the chips will have a place to go when I use other Forstner bits. Rather than going straight to the largest Forstner bit that I will use, I'm worried about this blank coming off of the chuck. So I'm incrementally widening the hole. using larger and larger Forstner bits. This doesn't put a lot of stress on the chuck or the tenon, as going straight to the largest Forstner bit might do. And yes, I could have done this job by hollowing it out, but I just like using Forstner bits to do this. This is the largest Forstner bit I will use for this. And it goes very slowly at this time. I originally tested the depth I wanted with my depth gauge, and I marked the Forstner bit. You can see the mark right there of how far down I want it to go. And this is my homemade depth gauge. Works great. What I'm marking now is the bottom of the hole. I don't want to make the holes in the sidewalls below that shelf. It would not look good. So that second one is the bottom of where the holes will go. That's the mark for the top. And now I'm measuring for the middle. The design I make on these holes is different for every one of these that I made. But they all start out and work pretty much the same. I didn't turn the camera on to show you how I marked the vertical lines. I did those using the steps on the lathe and the tool rest, and then I took the entire setup with the chuck out, put it in my drill press, and drilled the holes. This just made things a lot simpler to do it that way. Then I remounted everything back on the lathe. This way it's still true, or relatively true, to what it was. I'm now using a carbide tool to square up the top edge. And now I'm cutting the lip so that the lid will fit in. I cut the lip freehand and then match the lid to it. You can do it either way, but since I've got this on the lathe, this is the fastest way. I'm now softening the top edges of the vent holes using a countersink bit. I originally tried doing this on the drill press, but it kept catching it, so this is a lot better. I keep a lot more control working with my hand drill this way. And more sanding. I'm going through the grits from 80 to 320. And now I'm doing a final sanding on the inside of the vent holes, just to make sure that there's no rough spots on that. I put sanding sealer on this. I forgot to turn on the camera for that. Put sanding sealer on and then burnished it with that piece of white Scotch-Brite that you see there. And now this is the final coat of the shellac that I'm putting on, inside and outside. I put it on with a rag so I get as thin a coats as I can possibly get. Now I'm burnishing it again that the shellac is dried. I decided to use shellac because it is food grade safe and there will be food on this. I now turned the project around again and using the jaws of the chuck in an expansion mode to hold the project. On this first one, I should have put some protection between the jaws and the garlic keeper. I didn't, and there were marks that were made I had to sand out. But now I'm taking the tenon off using various tools. I'm trying to be as gentle as I can because I don't want to get a catch because it will pull right off of those jaws and probably damage everything. So easy does it. Slow and sure wins the race. Right now I'm using a detail spindle gouge for this. And it was not doing the job as I wanted it, so I switched to my 1/2-inch bowl gouge. And it's doing a good job, not putting too much stress on the blank. And then cleaning up the cut with shear scrapes. It's not flat yet, so it needs a little bit more work. I tried a scraper, that didn't seem to help much. I experiment with tools, whatever I think I need. Back to the square cutting carbide tool. And now I'm using it to make the mark where I will recess the inside of the circle inside that mark so that the outside is the foot. Using the pointy carbide tool to define that better. And now the round carbide tool. I'm basically sculpting here a little bit at a time. Production workers can do this with the bigger tools, but I'm not a production worker. A little final sanding here. Sending the middle of that with it stationary, so they don't want to make a divot. And now the outside of the foot, just to make everything flat. And now the moment of truth. Yes, I take vacations. This was fun. So now I'm doing the lid. I've got it, the center marked on the lid, and I've got it in the lathe, running fairly true. There's a jam chuck on the back end of that, and I'm going to glue it to the jam chuck with hot glue. My wife wanted to know why I couldn't just use her little tiny hot glue gun that she uses for her crafts. This is why. I need to make a very large bead, and this is the easiest way to do it. So even though it's on the glue on the jam truck, of course I still keep tailstock support, but I'm going very slow and easy, rounding this over, making it perfectly round and true. And now I'm going to measure where the body will be and where I want the lid to go on that lip I made, that groove I made in the body. I'll make it a little larger than I want so that I can sneak up on it. Now I took a depth measurement of the groove in the body, so that's as far down as I want this to go on the lid. That was scaring me. That sound, I think it was trying to shake itself out of the glue in the jam truck. So I switched from that tool to a gouge, and started working on it. Then gone to the carbide tools. Again, very easy cuts. I will stop frequently and check where I'm at with it. That's a little tight, so made a few adjustments. Now I'm doing some artwork on the center of the bottom, making it a little concave. It'll look prettier that way. And I'm putting in some concentric circles for decoration. You may ask why I didn't do some texturing on this. It's because when I made this, I didn't have a texturing tool. I have since bought one. I haven't played with it yet, but I've got it.
Not time to go.
So,
okay. Now.
What can I say? I got the lid bottom finished and sanded, and now I'm taking it off of the jam chuck using denatured alcohol. That's hard stuff to get here in California. Fortunately, I have a fairly good supply of it. I've been reading on YouTube that if you can't get denatured alcohol, you might use vodka. I may try that. But so far I've still got the denatured and I'm happy with it. I've turned it over and I've got a pin bit in my tailstock so that I have plenty of room to work with. Fine-tuning the true on the edge, and now I'm working to lighten the top, sculpt it out, make it look pretty, and lighten it up so it won't look clunky. I've not put this back in with the glue. It is just jammed onto the jam chuck, so I have to be very, very careful, very light passes. Most of them are scraping and shear scraping, so that I put very little pressure and side loads on the lid block. I guess this is where artistry comes in, rather than mechanical stuff. I don't claim to be a Rembrandt or any other kind of artist, but I do try my darndest. Again, sculpting with the carbide tools. These are the miniature carbide tools for pen making. I find I like them better than the big carbide tools that I have, especially for little jobs like this. I get more control. Again, putting some circles on for decoration. Always put 2 circles, not 3, unless you have a good way to measure the 3. Otherwise, they will never come out even, and the eye will catch that. So 2 always looks great. Again, sanding 80 to 320. And there it is. The lid hasn't been finished yet, but I will do that off camera. One down, 2 more to go.